Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're diving into Honkai Star Rail, you've probably noticed one thing. No matter how powerful your DPS or how clever your strategy, you're going to take some hits. And let's be real, in a game with turn-based combat, surviving the battle is just as important as dealing damage. That's where sustainers come in. Whether you're patching up your team with a healer or throwing up shields like a brick wall, a good sustainer is the backbone of any solid squad. Today, we're focusing on the Abundance path, the healers. These characters aren't just about keeping your HP bar green, some of them bring so much extra value to your team, it's insane. From cleansing debuffs to boosting energy regeneration, Abundance units can completely shift how a fight plays out. But not all healers are created equal, so let's break down which ones truly shine and why you'll want them in your team. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! Natasha, our beloved 4-star physical sustainer, has been a staple in Honkai Star Rail since the very beginning. If you've been playing the game for a while, chances are Natasha was one of your first healers and probably carried you through those tricky early stages. She's got a straightforward kit. Her skill heals a single ally, and her ultimate brings that sweet team-wide healing. Back then, she felt like a lifesaver, literally. But as the roster grew and the game evolved, Natasha started to lose her shine. The main issue with Natasha isn't that she's bad, it's that she's just too basic for the demands of endgame content. By the time you're tackling tough fights or pushing your limits in simulated universes, healers need to bring more to the table. You'll want buffs, debuffs, damage mitigation, anything that gives your team an edge beyond just healing. And while Natasha has a solid foundation, she doesn't offer that extra layer of utility. It's like she showed up to a party with plain chips while everyone else brought gourmet snacks. That said, Natasha still has her place, especially if you're free to play or lacking stronger sustain options. She's reliable, easy to build, and her healing numbers can get the job done if you invest in her. Plus, let's not forget she's one of the few healers you'll unlock early without relying on the gacha gods. So while she might not be the flashy, meta-breaking healer everyone raves about, Natasha is a comforting reminder that sometimes simplicity works just fine, at least until you get your hands on a 5-star Abundance character. Let's talk about Gallagher, one of the more recent additions to the Abundance roster in Honkai Star Rail. Now, Gallagher is a 4-star fire unit, and while his kit might sound interesting on paper, he's not exactly setting the meta on fire, pun intended. The main issue? His skill is a single target heal, and it doesn't even remove a debuff unless you unlock his second Eidolon. That's a pretty big drawback in a game where cleanses can make or break a tough fight. The rest of his kit is a bit of a mixed bag. Sure, he's got some decent utility with his ability to dish out toughness DMG and amplify the break DMG enemies take, but here's the problem. Very few current meta teams benefit from break DMG as a core strategy. If you're building Gallagher, you might find yourself struggling to slot him into a team that fully utilizes what he brings to the table. It's like having a multi-tool when all you need is a screwdriver. Useful, but not quite what you're looking for. So, is Gallagher bad? Not necessarily. He's got potential, especially if the meta shifts or we see more DPS units that thrive on break DMG mechanics. But for now, he feels a little out of place, like a piece of a puzzle we don't have yet. If you're looking for an Abundance unit to carry your team, there are better options to invest your resources in. For now, at least. Let's talk about Bailu, one of the 5-star Abundance characters in Honkai Star Rail. Now, you might be thinking, 5 stars? Must be amazing, right? Well, not exactly. Bailu is one of those characters who's surprisingly easy to get. She's available on the standard banner, and you might stumble upon her if you lose your 50-50 on a character banner. So, while she sounds rare, she's probably going to pop up in your roster sooner or later. But don't let her rarity fool you. She's not exactly the MVP you might expect. On paper, Bailu's kit seems like a dream for anyone in need of a solid support. She can heal your entire team and even revive a fallen ally, which sounds like a lifesaver. And it can be, if you're willing to work around her limitations. The thing is, her skill relies a bit too much on RNG to feel reliable in the heat of battle. Plus, the lack of debuff removal can really leave you in the lurch when your team's stuck in a mess of crowd control effects. Sure, she can keep everyone alive a little longer, but if they're frozen or stunned, what's the point? That said, Bailu can still pull her weight if you're dedicated enough. She works as a solo sustainer, but you'll need to perfect the builds for your entire team to really make her shine. That means tweaking relics, optimizing light cones, and crossing your fingers that RNG is on your side. If you're the kind of player who loves the challenge of min-maxing, she might just be your gal. but for most players, there are probably more dependable Abundance characters to lean on. Let's talk about Lynx, one of the most incredible 4-star units in Honkai Star Rail. Yes, I said 4-star, and no, I'm not crazy. Lynx is the kind of character who sneaks up on you, making you wonder how a 4-star can outperform some 5 stars. First off, her combat type is Quantum, which is already a huge win. If you've dabbled with mono Quantum teams featuring powerhouses like Silver Wolf and Sparkle, you know exactly what I mean. Quantum units are absolute game changers, and Lynx fits right in like she was made for those lineups. But Lynx doesn't stop there. Her real charm lies in her ability to increase the chances of certain allies getting attacked. Pair her with a preservation or destruction unit, and she turns the battlefield into a strategic playground. Imagine characters like Jingliu, who need to use their ultimate as often as possible. Lynx helps them shine by letting them take more hits, build more energy, and go absolutely wild. It's like she's quietly setting the stage for the heavy hitters, and honestly, that's the kind of support we all love to have in our back pocket. The coolest thing about Lynx is how she bridges the gap between utility and synergy. She's not just a healer, she's a team enabler. Her indirect support makes her the ultimate wingman for those high-damage, energy-hungry units. Whether you're building a Quantum team or experimenting with other compositions, Lynx is the unsung hero that keeps everything running smoothly. So, the next time you're overlooking 4-star units, give Lynx a try. You might just find your new favorite. Let's talk about Luocha, one of the standout Abundance characters in Honkai Star Rail. If you're looking for a single unit to keep your team alive and kicking, this guy might just be your best friend. Luocha isn't just a healer, he's the healer. His skill does more than just patch up a scratch, it massively restores an ally's HP. And here's the cool part. If one of your allies drops below 50% health, his skill automatically triggers every couple of turns. That's right, Luocha is basically your team's personal medic on autopilot. But wait, there's more. Once you've used his skill or ultimate twice, Luocha unleashes a healing field that activates every time you attack an enemy. Yep, your damage dealers can keep doing their thing while everyone on the team gets healed just for being awesome. It's like your enemies are funding your recovery. Every hit they take is a step toward your team's survival. This ability alone makes him ridiculously good at sustaining your squad, especially in tough fights where constant healing is a must. And let's not forget the cherry on top. Luocha's utility doesn't stop at healing. He can remove buffs from enemies and cleanse debuffs from allies. Annoying enemies that rely on stacking buffs? Gone. Your team slowed or locked down by debuffs. Fixed. With all this versatility, Luocha isn't just a healer. He's the ultimate support unit that brings a ton of value to any team. If you're serious about staying alive in Honkai Star Rail, Luocha deserves a spot on your roster. Alright, let's talk about Huohuo, one of the most exciting 5-star characters to join the Honkai Star Rail roster. If you've been on the hunt for the ultimate healer, she's the real deal. Not only does Huohuo heal like a pro, but she also sneaks in some Harmony Path elements into her kit. That's right, she's not just keeping your team alive, she's actively making them better. Her skill alone can heal up to 3 allies, which is already pretty impressive, but here's the kicker. Every time one of her teammates uses a skill or an ultimate, she heals them again. It's like she's saying, don't worry, I've got your back, and your front, and your everything. Now, let's talk about her ultimate because it's the chef's kiss of her kit. Not only does it heal, but it also buffs your team with bonus energy and ATK. This is where Huohuo really shines as a pseudo-buffer. She's the kind of character that makes you rethink your entire team composition. Want to run a single DPS comp? Perfect. She'll support that one DPS like their life depends on it, because, well, it does. Prefer a double DPS setup? Pair her with someone like Ruin Mei, who also provides party-wide buffs, and watch your damage numbers soar. The flexibility she brings to the table is absolutely next level. So, what does this mean for you? Huohuo isn't just a healer, she's a game changer. Whether you're smashing through story missions or taking on the hardest content the game has to offer, having her on your team feels like you've unlocked a cheat code. But don't just take my word for it. Try her out yourself and see how she transforms your battles. Trust me, once you use her, there's no going back. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.